you know, I'm already looking at my time here. I'm 10 minutes deep in this video in recording alone here in my studio. And I still, to this day, struggle with the first start of a video, trying to get that out of the way. And so, as you probably have noticed in a lot of my videos, if you're a regular viewer, oftentimes I'll just skip the pleasantries, skip that, hey, how's it going? What's up, guys? I haven't done that in a long, long time. And this video is, since it's quite a bit different in terms of how it's formatted, it's filmed, I'm lost. And I'm not using a script. I have a cheat sheet with topics, but that's basically it. So bear with me on this one. It's going to be a learning journey for all of us, at least for this first month or so of this new format. But anyway, welcome one and all to the first video of 2025 and the first video in a series that I've sort of lovingly dubbed Lever Diaries. And essentially the plan for this series of videos is a year-long diary, kind of sharing and chronicling my experience, moving from a very modern, contemporary type of machine like the Decent to something that's very old school or traditional, like a lever machine. It's almost moving back in time. I've gone from iPad kid to Espresso historian. And considering that this is the first episode in the series, I kind of want to start from the very, very beginning on this journey, essentially, because oftentimes you don't see these types of things in videos. So what I want to cover today is why I chose to make this switch. Also, I want to talk about the process of choosing the machine, why I landed on the Profitec Pro 800, and then also go over some first impressions, the good, the bad, the middle of the road, I guess, more or less, and kind of finish off with just, I don't know, the way I normally finish videos, just asking you for your thoughts, opinions, what you want to see moving forward. Like I said, I want this to be more or less chronological in how we're doing things. So I don't want to be like episode 2 is going to be all about brewing profiles, because I think there's more steps between this intro video to that point. So anyway, with that said, we're going to dive right into all these topics around lever brewing after a quick word from this video's sponsor, Standart Magazine. In my opinion, the perfect complement to a fresh cup of coffee is no longer a pastry, it's a publication. Standart Magazine is an independent, coffee-focused quarterly that brings together all the elements of the global coffee community all in one place, shining light on stories and faces, new tech and innovations in the industry, as well as the personal and artistic experience of coffee overall. Plus, as a bonus, it comes with a sample of coffee from some of the best roasters on the planet. So as a longtime Standart reader and actually a partner for many, many years, I'm very happy to be able to provide $5 off your very own subscription when you go to standartmag.com/Sprometheus or use code Sprometheus at checkout. But also, don't take my word for it. If you want to take Standart for a test drive to see if you actually like it, you can do it for just the cost of shipping. There's not a whole lot to lose, and trust me, there's a lot to gain. So one of the many questions I've had over the last few months about this transition, this change from contemporary espresso machines to old school espresso machines, the spring levers or levers in general, is why. And so I think I want to start there. I think that's a good starting point for this video. And there are 2 reasons, and they're not complicated. The first one, for those who have watched my videos over the course of many years, you've probably heard me say many, many times that I want something more tactile, more hands-on, less technology, I guess. Not that I don't love technology, but when it comes to brewing espresso, I just really want like that very raw experience. I don't want to work on a screen. And having the most recent machine I've been working on for some time now, being the Decent, I felt like it's a very cold, not really fun experience for me to just enter values on an iPad and press go. I would rather be more in control. The other reason, the second reason, is also because in this, I'm not going to call it a long career, but about 10 years in coffee at this point. And in that time, I think I've maybe pulled a total of I don't know, I could probably count them on both hands, how many shots I've pulled on a spring lever machine, or even like a powered lever machine. I'm not really counting the flare or things like that. At this point in my coffee career, I'd like to just dabble in some new things. But now that you know the why, let's talk about the what, or essentially how I chose the machine that's on my counter behind me. Now, considering I haven't had much experience with lever machines, I did have to go out and kind of get some thoughts, get some opinions. So I spoke with quite a few people, friends of mine who use lever machines in their cafes or at home, or, I perused some forums, which aren't really places I like to spend much time in, and sort of narrowed it down. And there ended up being 3 machines that were in the top running. The first one was the Olympia Cremina spring lever, and did some research. I looked at that machine and I ended up not going with it, obviously. And there's 2 reasons for that. The first one being it was really expensive for what I felt like it provided. $4,000 for a heated boiler and a lever and spring. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure they're great machines. I'm sure they're coveted for a reason. They're around, they've been around since like 1967 and they still are usable. So I'm sure that they're great machines. But I couldn't really justify spending $4,000 on a machine the size of a lunchbox. Couldn't get there, couldn't do it. Fortunately, my brother came in clutch and was like, hey, he's another espresso guy, another coffee guy. And he said, hey, I've got a Cremina just collecting dust, needs some work. I thought I would repair it, just never got around to it. And so I've taken that off his hands. And so now that I've got that, which is another series of videos we're going to be working on, I thought, okay, let's just move on. So Cremina off the list. The next machine on the list was the Londinium R24. Now, I was really drawn to that machine for the look, the general feel. I've got some friends who own one, read some good things, but then I went to their website. I don't know how to describe this. My spidey sense was tingling as I read through the descriptions, and I saw things like, this machine brews better coffee than the GS3, not our words. And I thought, it's kind of a weird thing to put on your product page. Seems like, I don't know, it's weirdly aggressive. And I thought, okay, this just has to be some kind of, maybe I'm just reading into this too much. Scrolled down further, found something that said like, this rotary pump in the machine has never had any problems ever. Not once, not ever, something like that. And I thought, that's a weird thing to say. At that point, I thought I need to do a little more research on this company. And as I dug into it and I found other creators have had experiences with the owner that aren't ideal. I've had my own experiences with egos in coffee when it comes to equipment manufacturers. And I thought, you know what? I don't got time for this shit. So I thought, let's look deeper at another piece of equipment. And that's when the Pro 800 was brought up. And so I thought this might be a great option. I dug into it deeper, found some, positive takes. Profitec's a company that I've reviewed machines from in the past, and I've always enjoyed what they've produced. They've always been good, solid pieces of equipment. And so I thought, okay, this is the one. Let's move forward. And now I think that was late October, early November. So as you can see, we've got it behind me, and that's going to be the basically center of my espresso universe for the next year. Now, for those who maybe aren't familiar with the Pro 800, I think it's a good opportunity to kind of go over the basics of that machine. Now, as I mentioned, I definitely wanted something with some presence on the counter, and I think the Pro 800 has that. It's a bit of a beast of a machine, weighing in at about 70 pounds dry and 80 pounds once you fill its 3.5 liter copper boiler and 2.8 liter internal reservoir. It also has a counterweight installed on the back for its 17-pound spring lever. And of course, the brewing pressure is all derived from that spring lever, but there also is a vibration pump installed, but that's used only to refill the boiler from the reservoir if it's not plumbed in. In terms of the boiler temperature, it is PID controlled, and it sits here back behind the drip tray and also includes a simple eco mode. On its face, there is also a boiler pressure gauge that of course doesn't go up to 9 bars because it's the boiler pressure and not the brew pressure. And lastly, in terms of the brewing system from the boiler to the group, the Profitec Pro 800 uses what's known as a dipper system, where water comes in from the boiler through a block that reduces its temperature down to what is considered the ideal brewing temperature, which I don't really know what that is yet, at least based on where I have it set at 250. So that's a job for a SCASE and a future video. But as you compress the spring, the piston lifts up and allows water into the group itself. And then of course, when you release the lever, the piston drops, pressing water through the group, creating that sweet brown liquid we all enjoy so much. All right, so now with the what and the why and the how out of the way, let's talk about the who. I have no idea, but let's go over first impressions. Now, having used a few Profitecs over the course of my years doing coffee videos, I think it meets those expectations in terms of build quality. It's very sturdy, it's very heavy. The portafilters, there's nice wood on them. Everything feels nice as it should. There is some, sharper corners here and there, but really nothing that I think is that offensive or that unusual in terms of a machine that's built out of pretty much entirely stainless steel. Now, in terms of brewing on it and the usability of it, the Pro 800, for one, has scratched that exact itch I was looking to scratch, or I was reaching for, with getting a lever from your standard semi-auto machine. It really feels different. The experience is different. I think it's definitely a fun change of pace. It feels more engaging to me, so I've really enjoyed that aspect. And of course, the other enjoyable aspect in terms of first impressions is having to relearn or trying to develop a better understanding for how espresso is brewed on a lever machine. That said, even though the shots maybe aren't beautiful all the time, they are tasty, I would say 85% of the time, which I would say is a ratio that I'm happy with, because on a new machine, a new process, something you're not familiar with, that's a solid number to be really nice shots of coffee, especially when it comes to a wide variety of beans I generally have on hand, different burrs, different grinders, things like that. It seems to always produce, well, most of the time, produce high texture and body shots. They're just super round in terms of, the flavor in your mouth, the balance, the sweetness, all those things that I love about espresso are there. Steaming power is okay. It's obviously dependent on where you have the single boiler set. At 250 degrees, it's just a little under 1 bar. So the power is lacking, but you can get there. Now, in terms of things that I don't like, or I have found to be, I guess, annoying or part of that lever experience that I have, just to get used to, have to come to terms with. One of those things is, of course, you can't stop the shot. Once it's going, it's going. If you see that there's a problem with your grind or whatever, you kind of just have to let it happen. And so can be annoying, can be messy. On top of that, even shots that you are happy with, of course, it doesn't stop. So you do have to pull your cup out at a certain point. So getting really accurate yields can be a little more of a challenge. Of course, you're going to let the shot either run into the drip tray or run into an extra cup. So again, you're adding more dishes or more cleaning to the whole program, which, as kind of a neat freak, that's been a challenge. But this is a year of challenging myself, so I guess we're here for it. Another issue that I think that's a pretty minor issue, and that's the eco mode. I ended up turning it off because it's not nearly as sophisticated as the eco mode programming would be in other machines that I've had, where if you're using the machine, it doesn't go into eco mode. But on this unit specifically, at least in my experience, you set it for an hour and a half. I come in here and pull a shot at an hour and 28 minutes. 2 minutes later, it's turning off. So it's not basically going to be reset when you pull the lever. You have to actually either probably flip the power switch or pull the drip tray out and press a button on the PID for it to read that you're still using it and to reset that timer. So that's a little bit annoying, so I ended up just turning it off completely. And lastly is something that I know I've complained about with many machines in the past, probably a Profitec if I go back and look at it, as well as many E61s and things like that, is there's no cover on the water reservoir. So if you look at the top of the machine, there is a grate on it that you can lift up, and it has a bunch of square holes in it, right? It's sort of a tray for your cups to warm them up. But on one side, it just drops straight down into your water, which I don't love that. So basically, first thing, I enlisted friend of the show, Tom, to print me off a 3D printed lid, sent him the dimensions, and we got something that fits. It's fine, it blocks it. So I'm happy with that, but it'll never stop bothering me or amazing me that machine manufacturers aren't building lids for their reservoirs, but here we are. And on that note, all good things, as they say, must come to an end. And so this video, it's time to wrap this one up. And as always, pass conversation on to you. So what are your thoughts on the Pro 800? What are your thoughts on this series? What do you want to see? What do you think is the next logical step in the lever diary, so to speak? So drop your answers to those questions and any others you may have in the comment section down below. And as always, I'll see y'all in the next video. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that little bell button for notifications when new videos drop. Check out my Instagram at Sprometheus for more coffee content. Help support the channel by considering becoming a member for unique exclusive perks. And as always, stay caffeinated. Pony Boy.